The City of Bristol, providing beautiful parks, economic development, and a family-friendly community.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to the January meeting of the Board of Finance and the City Council. If you'd like to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, we will start our meeting with that. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the members of the joint meeting please introduce themselves, starting on my far right?
Michael Hoffman, Board of Finance.
Maria Ryan, Board of Finance.
Orlando Kelfi, Board of Finance.
John Smith, Board of Finance.
Peter Kelly, City Council.
Ron Burns, Board of Finance.
Greg Hahn, City Council.
Mary Fortier, City Council.
Josh Maduro, City Council.
Dave Mills, City Council.
Jake Carrier, Board of Finance.
Cheryl Tebow, Board of Finance.
Consent calendar, we have items 2A through K. Does anybody have any agenda consent calendar items that they would like to remove for discussion purposes? Hearing none, is there a motion to come forward for the consent calendar, items 2A through K?
Move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, which is a transfer of $8,101 from the general fund contingency account to the Registrar of Voters operating budget for part-time wages and printing and binding.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4 is to transfer $10,000 from the general fund contingency account to operating transfers out capital projects.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, to make an additional appropriation of $10,000 within the capital projects fund for professional fees.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is number 6, the monthly revenue and expense report presentation by Controller Diane Waldron.
Happy New Year, everyone. I gave everybody copies of the audits, which I'll talk about in a minute. But what I want to do is just go over our revenue and expenditure report. There really are a couple of things to highlight. Our tax revenues are still coming in strong. We're at 56.3% and 64.2% of our current and prior. Building permit revenue is at 75%. That's through December, so I anticipate that there will be a surplus there, and I do know there will be some building permit fees for some major projects that will be coming through as well. Conveyance tax is at 57.6%, and our investment earnings have already surpassed our budget amount of $500,000, and we are at $546,000. So that is a nice surplus that's developing on our investment income. With state revenues, nothing new to report from our ECS or educational grant perspective, but I did want to at least highlight that we did receive a grant for $103,000 that is not reflected in your expenditure and revenue and expenditure report that you have in the detail. It had not yet been posted, but that is for an enterprise zone manufacturing equipment grant that was approved after the budget was adopted by the state legislature. So that is an additional $103,000 that we had not anticipated. So that's a nice little surprise there. On the expenditure side, nothing really to report there unless anybody has any specific questions in going through the report. If you had any questions, I'll be happy to take them. But other than that, let me switch over to the audit. I think I did give everybody an audit for June 30th, 2018. As much as we tried to get this completed and done and issued before the Christmas, actually we were trying to do it like way before the Christmas break. It wasn't filed until December 31st. We had all of the work done that we needed to get done. The auditors finished all of their work like the first week of December. one of the things that was prevalent throughout the state is that the state of Connecticut had to provide information to all of the auditors and all the towns and cities on the state teacher's retirement, other post-employment benefits. And that was the issue that really held up the audit. And unfortunately, it's something that I think as an organization and my associations, we're going to push the state to try to work with us so that we're not in a bind to get the audit done on December 31st. Actually, we received it at like 5:30 on the 31st. So again, it wasn't the auditor's fault. It wasn't anything that that was a lag on what we were trying to get together for them. It was just the new GASB reporting requirements that put the delay in. So with that, I'll just briefly just highlight, the auditors did give an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion. You do have in front of you the big book is the audit itself. It's the comprehensive annual financial report, and this report will be submitted to the Government Finance Officers Association for review for the award again. We have received that award for a number of years, and we anticipate that this will meet the requirements again, so we don't see any issues there. With regard to this report, just a couple of things that I would just point out. Page 20, there's just a good summary of the general fund. The general fund did have a deficit of $0.97 million. And just to kind of highlight briefly, basically the city did break even, but the Board of Finance did allocate some funds towards the Equipment Building Sinking Fund, which was anticipated during the budget process, and towards the Debt Service Fund, which was allocated from fund balance. So essentially, when you look at the revenue and expenditure report, you're going to see that we actually did do very well last year, considering the challenges we had with the Board of Education and with the reduction in state revenues that we had. So on page 20, it's just a brief summary. You can see the budget information on pages 76 to 87. Our fund balance as a percentage of our expenditures, and this is something that the Board of Finance does monitor regularly and make sure that we stay within our goal. Our goal is to be between 12 and 15%, and we came in at 14.3%. So that is good. It is something the rating agencies look at and always comment on. Our collection rate for tax collections, the audited collection rate was 98.61%. We budget 98.5, so we did surpass what we had anticipated during the budget. There was no management letter, so I'm happy to report that they did not have any findings. So we received word today that there would be no management letter. So we were happy to hear that as well. If you want further detail, the auditors will be at the February Board of Finance meeting, which is on February, can't read my handwriting, February 26th at 5:30. So if you're inclined and you want to hear more about the audit, they will be at that meeting. Does anybody have any other questions?
Through the chair. I would just like to thank Diane and her staff for all their diligence and their hard work over the last year. Of course, the opinion is what we were seeking, but the fact that there was no management letter when last year there were some items that we needed to work on and clean up speaks volumes, and that's great. And I know your staff is dedicated and well-trained and much appreciated. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate that. It's we worked really hard to not have a management audit letter this year, so thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for the controller? Okay. Thank you, Diane. The next item on our agenda is any other business proper to come before said meeting. Attorney Clift? Did I skip that?
I think you did start.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Stieg. Let us revisit the first page of the agenda and go back for the approval of the regular minutes from December 11th.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion or clarification on the minutes as circulated? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Before we go to any of the commissioners who may have any other business, I do want to say, since we have some new faces in the audience, this meeting is somewhat of a final meeting. These items that we discussed and went through very quickly tonight have already been to the City Council and have already been to the Board of Finance, and per charter, they now come together at the joint meeting. So we have Everybody here has already seen, reviewed, and discussed the material. So for those of you who may be wondering why this has gone so quickly and why it's a 15-minute meeting, that is why. We do have a check presentation to end the meeting, but before we do so, I do want to query the rest of the Board of Finance to see if they have any other business. Okay, hearing none, I would like to just check to see if Ted Jeffries is here tonight. He's here representing St. Vincent de Paul. Come on, you can come up to the podium. Many of you may know that the city employees do a denim dress down day for Fridays, and we select charities within Bristol for every month. And this month, I think it was the November month, as we knew that the cold weather was starting, St. Vincent de Paul Center was chosen as the recipient organization. So tonight, on behalf of the city employees, I'd like to present to Mr. Jeffries a check for $150 from the city employees.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On behalf of City Council and Phil Lisiak as director, this is much appreciated. A lot is needed and every bit helps, so
Yep.
this goes a long way. Thank
Well,
you very much.
thank you for coming tonight. If there's no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The city council meeting will start in 4 minutes. Thank you. Okay, welcome to the January city council meeting. I'd like to ask everyone to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the members of the city council please introduce themselves, starting on my far left?
Josh Maduros, District 1.
Dave Mills, District 3.
Mary Fortier, District 3.
Greg Hahn, District 1.
Peter Kelly, District 2.
And I'm Mayor Ellen Zappo-Sassu. Councilman Proleski will not be joining us tonight as he is out of town. For our opening ceremonies, we do typically have a moment of reflection, and tonight I'd like to just take a moment to think good thoughts for all of the Bristol students who are going to be starting a semester abroad this week and next week. We have probably 2 or 3 dozen students that will be traveling to Europe and other places. And in the state of global issues today, I think a moment reflecting on safety and hopefully that they'll be back safe and sound with their families at the end of the semester is appropriate. Thank you. Would the members of the City Council have anything that they'd like to add for opening ceremonies tonight? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Therese?
Minutes of the regular city council meeting on December 11th, 2018, and special city council meeting on December 19th, 2018.
Move for approval.
Second.
Discussion on the motion for the approval for both sets of meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tonight's nonprofit spotlight is Scott Heth, who will be speaking to us briefly on the Environmental Learning Centers of Connecticut. And there's actually another related item on our agenda, which we'll probably talk about closely thereafter. So Scott, if you'd like to join us at the podium.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about Environmental Learning Centers of Connecticut. It's actually really good timing because we owe the origin of our organization to the first piece of property, first 40 acres that was acquired 50 years ago. We're just about ready to start our 50-year anniversary on Shrub Road, which is now the Harry C. Barnes Memorial Nature Center. Fast forward 50 years, we now have about 750 acres of land in Bristol, Burlington, and Southington, which includes the Indian Rock Nature Preserve right on Route 69 across from Cedar Lake. So the mission of ELCCT is to inspire the appreciation and enjoyment of nature through education and conservation, fostering a healthy environment and improved quality of life. And we do that in many different ways. I already mentioned the Barnes Nature Center. So that continues to be our community nature center, open for general visitation. We encourage people to come walk the trails, to visit the exhibits, to see our animals, to take part in our programs. And if you haven't been there recently in the last few years, I encourage you to come over because we've done a lot of work on the building and a lot of work on the exhibits. It's really a fantastic place. So the The Indian Rock Nature Preserve is our environmental education wing, so to speak, of our organization. And it's not open to general visitation, but this is where we do our school programs, thousands of school children each year through field trips. It's where we do special events like the Santa's Farm we just had, and various other events that we do. And we also have the Indian Rock Summer Camp, which is a very well-regarded summer camp. Our goal is to get kids outside, away from the video screens, away from the phones and video games, to spend time with nature outside during the summer. Last summer, we had record attendance at the Indian Rock Summer Camp. So our major goal is to get people outside to realize the benefits, the health benefits, the educational benefits, the social benefits of spending time outside. So last year, all told, we educated about 23,000 children and adults through our various programs, and we continue to grow. Last summer, I hired a director of education who's moving our education programs forward at a very fast rate. As a result, I now have an open position for a full-time educator who's going to help us meet the demand for those programs. Our website is always a great place to go to learn more about the organization. I encourage you to go there. Perhaps while you're there, you'll sign up to become part of our volunteer corps right now, which is about 250 volunteers strong. You can sign up for our email list too, which will give you updates about all our different programs. Thanks again for the opportunity, and don't forget to spend some time outside with your family and friends.
Thank you, Scott. For the regular public participation portion, we do have a sign up in the outside hallway. Although if you're new to this meeting and you may not have seen it, so at this point, we do have one person who is signed up that I will call on in a moment. But are there any other people here who would like to address the City Council who may not have had an opportunity to sign up? Because before we go to our regular participation, we do have an item related to the environmental learning centers that I think it would be appropriate, since I do see people from the neighborhood as well as board members, that maybe we could go to and expedite that piece.
I'd make a motion to move item 13 up on the agenda.
Second.
Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So in the past couple of months, the Environmental Learning Center and the city have been discussing a very exciting opportunity to apply for a state grant through the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection for additional open space. Open space is obviously something that once it's gone, it never comes back. And so the city has done a very good job over the last 25 years in acquiring as many parcels as possible when it became available and investing in those resources. So there is a parcel that is actually contiguous to the Barnes Nature Center on Shrub Road, as well as Riley Park that the city owns, and also close to the Burlington line and a neighborhood. So that is a parcel of interest to us, and we have worked with the owners of that parcel who have been very generous in sharing with us as much information about that site as they have, for us to do some due diligence about how this piece will fit. We do believe that it would be a great fit, both for the neighborhood, because it's a very low traffic area. We would not like to see that change. We also like it because of the ecological aspects of it, as well as its very close proximity to a park as well as existing open space. So as we all know, no grant is a sure thing, but this one, because we are what's called a distressed municipality, we could, if possible, receive up to 75% reimbursement on our purchase. So we're working through some of these issues, as well as some mapping and GIS issues, as well as talking to the town of Burlington, because part of this parcel actually exists within the town of Burlington. And while I don't have the authority to do anything regarding that particular parcel, we are looking for cooperation and collaboration from our neighbors to the north. And I think that they're interested in supporting our application as well. So agenda item 13 would be the authorization to us to begin that grant process application. It's due in February, and the good news is that we would hear probably in mid to late spring, so that we could plan appropriately from a capital investment standpoint as well as a financial standpoint. Does anybody have any questions on the City Council in terms of the grant application?
Mayor, if I may, I just did want to mention that since People have been hearing about this through the mail. I've gotten several phone calls, and all of them are enthusiastically supportive of this. Primarily, I've gotten phone calls primarily from the neighborhood, but I anticipate that they're going to be following up with lots of letters to you in support.
Yeah, and I'll echo that as well. And people were wondering what the best avenue was to put a letter forward, whether you wanted, people to sign their names to a list or individual letters, whatever you thought was going to be strongest.
So last week, when we realized that we were close meeting the price point of what this parcel is for sale for, we did send out a letter to the 4 streets that border these properties. And so if any of those neighbors from that neighborhood or anybody from the community in general who supports open space acquisition wants to have a letter of support be included in our grant application, they can address it to the Commissioner of the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection and send it to my office with an original signature. We could do email copies as long as your email address denotes who you are and it's clear, maybe add your address or a phone number, and then we will include those in the packet, and we would need those by February 1st. Okay, is there a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the signing of the grant.
Is that the motion that's included in our packet?
There is a motion.
I have the motion, Your Honor.
Sorry.
To approve the filing of a Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection Open Space and Watershed Land Acquisition Grant for the preservation of land by acquisition of property identified on Assessor's Map 57, Lots 6, 6-2, and 6-3, and to authorize Mayor Ellen A. Zoppo Sasu or acting mayor to sign all necessary documents. To also approve that this matter be referred to the Board of Finance for any necessary action, the 10-year Capital Improvement and Strategic Planning Committee, the Planning Commission for the CGS Section 8-24 review, and the Board of Park Commissioners for informational purposes.
Is there a second? Further discussion on the motion? At this point, we're going to do some additional due diligence on the topography, some mapping, and some environmental investigations. And once all of that is done, we will have a packet, and we will hopefully be lucky enough to have this grant brought into Bristol for the 35 acres, and we will know hopefully within this fiscal year so that we can plan for next fiscal year. There's no additional comments. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And thank you to the members of the ELCCT board that are here tonight, the neighbors, and David McDonald from NTH. Thank you for coming tonight. Next on our agenda for public participation is Michael Dudko from 116 Lewis Road to talk about the 20th anniversary.
Michael J. Dudko, 116 Lewis Road, Bristol. I haven't been here in a while. I may take 5 minutes. My mother, Mary Boogren Dudko, died this past November at the age of 93, smart and intelligent till the end. She was the last of the Boogren siblings ousted from their homes on Middle Street by this city using eminent domain. This summer, I told her about a significant anniversary coming up in this December, and I wanted to come to the meeting. I'll admit, she was neutral about the idea of me coming here. On December 20th, 1998, last month, 20 years ago, the first legal letter came from this city involving its desire to purchase my family's Middle Street property. My mother said, "Don't worry about it," but I knew better. I said, "This is bad." I decided to call up my old boss, J. Harwood Stretch Norton, a former mayor, a man of great integrity, well known in this city. I had information about his beloved Lake Compounce Gillette Railroad to give him. Then I told him about the letter. He mentioned the name of 2 key city officials who were involved, and again on a subsequent conversation, and said they found a loophole. A man of great integrity telling me this. He told me the city offered Yard Metals Company 20 acres of city industrial land adjacent to Redstone Hill Road, but turned it down saying it was too small. So in the spring of 1998, the BDA planned a generic industrial park on my family's land. They found a loophole. The story really broke 20 years ago this month, January. Now it broke in the newspapers, both the Bristol Press and the Hartford Courant. At many of the ensuing meetings, I asked who was intended for the large 25-acre lot that dominated the plan maps. No answer. Deliberately, no answer from people in any of the, on the city council and in the BDA. They knew who it was for. They knew who was the motivation for the whole park and this plot of land. Aside, I want to let people know, citizens don't really know this. A city government, you can lie on here. You might be censured later within your own prerogative, but the only way truth comes out is with a legal court proceeding. Later in 1999 or 2000, our attorneys found a document in the city computer files. It was a confidentiality agreement drawn up by the city where the adjacent Warner Electric Company would sell its northern parking lot to Yard Metals, making it a larger than 25-acre parcel. Apparently, the Boogren property was too narrow originally to fit their purpose. Collusion. We hear this word in the past year a great deal. This occurred 20 years ago. This was kept in the files of the city. Stretch Norton, they found a loophole to make everything work. One of the most honest men that I've known in my lifetime. The city intended to keep the truth from my mother, her siblings, and the citizens of Bristol, primarily the citizens of Bristol. You don't want to have this come out. This only came out when court proceedings take place. My point of all this, it's 20 years later. I don't want anybody ever to lie on a city government for the betterment of Bristol. Stay away from that. Don't go to those ends. It's not worth it. There's nothing honorable for the benefit of a city when you have to get that close or withhold the truth. It's dishonorable. An official who does this should be prosecuted, I believe, and he deserves jail time. We were lied to 50 years ago. The Vietnam War was a situation where we weren't told the truth by federal government. It wasn't what was presented. I'm tired. I'm tired. Maybe I'll go and write a movie script.
Thank you. That is the conclusion of our public participation segment, unless one last call, if there's anyone who would like to address the City Council that didn't have the opportunity to sign up, now is your chance. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to announcements. The first one that we do as part of our agenda is employee recognition, and it is my pleasure tonight to introduce the members of the council as well as the public to the city's new marketing director, Dawn Nielsen, who started yesterday. She has 30 years worth of experience in marketing and branding, as well as a great background with community activism, and I'd like everyone to be introduced to Dawn and have her say a few words.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Mayor. I appreciate it. Thank you to the council members and to Justin and the BDA office and everyone that I have met so far. I've only been here 2 days, so I still have a lot of faces to meet, but it's been a great warm welcome. As a longtime Bristol resident, I am very excited to be part of this position and to hit the ground running so that I can go out and tell the city's story and celebrate all the great things that this city has to offer. And I am looking forward to working with each and every one of you, as well as all the citizens of Bristol. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dawn. We look forward to all that you're going to bring to the table for Bristol as well.
Thank you.
Announcements are on the board that will be scrolling throughout the night. And do any of the council members have anything else under announcements that they'd like to bring forward that's not part of the slideshow? Okay, yes, okay. Councilman Fortier.
Thank you. I wanted to remind veterans that Governor Malloy signed into law Public Act 1847, which extends the eligibility for certain veterans exemptions. The one that we would be concerned about here in Bristol is a property tax exemption. And in the past, those property tax exemptions for veterans were only for folks with honorable discharges, and there are certain categories of other than honorable discharges that have been now included. They include things where the veteran has a qualifying condition like a post-traumatic stress disorder and some other conditions. So if someone is in that category and might be interested in seeing if they now qualify for the veterans exemption, they can either go on the State of Connecticut Department of Veteran Affairs website or check with our assessor's office. There's a form that needs to be filled out to see if that you meet those qualifications, but it's something that's been extended, and we want to encourage people to use that exemption if they qualify. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll put that on the city website too for that exemption piece. Well, we had a very good youth cabinet meeting that preceded this meeting. It featured the Park and Rec Department, so thanks to the park staff who entertained about 20 young people who actually took the opportunity to design their own park. So a very synthetic discussion amongst them, a lot of good questions, and they really understood the importance of this great resource that we have. So I can't remember what it is for February, but we're going to continue these through April, and hopefully we'll continue to attract many other young people. And I just did want to brief the council. I'm sure many of you are aware that the legislative session opens tomorrow, and we in the office have spent a lot of time putting together a legislative agenda for bills that we're going to track that are important to Bristol. Today, I was in Plymouth with Mayor Merchant and Representative Betts. Yesterday, I was in Burlington with First Selectman Schaefer, and there's a lot of opportunities for regional cooperation as well, and I think that we're going to be seeing some of that come to fruition with some relationships that we're developing with those towns as well. I'll be in Hartford tomorrow, and looking forward to meeting all of our new state officials, as well as seeing who some of the committees are and how that's going to affect Bristol. Any other announcements? Hearing none, I'll turn it over to our town and city clerk for the calling of the rest of the agenda items.
Okay, there is the consent calendar, and there are 3 items on the consent calendar. If somebody would like to waive the reading and
Motion to waive the reading of the consent calendar.
Second.
all, and
Okay.
vote on that.
So that was to waive. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to accept the consent calendar.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And then it's committee reports is next. It's the ordinance committee.
Sure. We have 2 from the Ordinance Committee. The first, item A, is to adopt amendments to the Bristol Code of Ordinances, Section 18-132 and Section 18-133 pertaining to school building committee membership. Do we want to waive the reading? Motion?
Yes.
Motion to waive the reading?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the waiving of the reading of 6A? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, item B, to adopt amendments to the Bristol Code of Ordinance, Section 23-1 pertaining to citation officers.
I think we have to vote on 6A.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
So we have to adopt, motion to adopt first, the first ordinance.
So second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion on Section 18-132, which in essence is removing the mandatory city council members to sit school building committees and will allow people with a broader experience base to join those committees? Any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now 6B, Ordinance Committee for Citation Officers.
Okay. To adopt amendments to the Bristol Code of Ordinances, Section 23-1 pertaining to citation officers. This was an ordinance that was just extending the power of who within the city can issue citations. A lot of the discussion was just surrounding people within Public Works, will see something and can't really do anything about it. So this just extended the power so we could be more efficient.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Real Estate Committee? It's a motion. Does anybody have a motion?
I have the motion.
Okay.
I hereby move that the City of Bristol seeks requests for proposals from the disposition of property owned by the city known as 64 Lawndale Avenue, map 16 of the Bristol Assessor's Office, and that the purchasing agent be authorized to request proposals, and that he send out a press release in addition to legal notices and update the city website. I further move that this matter be referred to Corporation Counsel to prepare and/or review any necessary documents. I further move that the mayor or acting mayor be authorized to execute any necessary documents to effectuate the same.
Second.
Discussion on the motion concerning 64 Lawndale Avenue. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D is an update regarding the Memorial Boulevard School. I think it would be appropriate to go to agenda item 11, because that is the most prominent update concerning this project. Would somebody be willing to bring the motion of bringing agenda item 11 to committee reports?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So the big news from the Memorial Boulevard Building Committee is that they have chosen a construction manager. This is part of the process as we start to get toward the building piece of that. And I'm very happy to announce that it is going to D'Amato and Downs joint venture as the construction management firm that we felt was most appropriate for this work after several interviews and 10 submissions of qualifications. They were selected a couple of weeks ago at the Board of Education where the meeting was held. So this is something where they are going to be working hand in hand with the architect and the building committee. And as the programming committee finishes its work and those schematics are being brought into the fold, all of this is going to start happening very quickly. So while some may feel that this has been a process that's gone on a long time, we are actually starting to really start to see the wheels move on this, and it's an exciting time for this project. So does anybody have the motion for this, or would somebody like to read it? Here we go, in the middle.
And there is one correction on the motion. It should be D'Amato and Downs, a joint venture, rather than just joint venture.
Okay. To award contract 2P19-037, construction manager as constructor for renovations at Memorial Boulevard Intra-District Arts Magnet School to D'Amato and Downs, a joint venture, in the amount of $2,504,380, and to refer to the Office of Corporation Counsel for contract review, and to authorize the mayor or acting mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to effect said contract.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. And again, for clarification, this amount that's being allocated for construction manager services is part of the overall budget. It is not an additional allocation. It is part of what we're being planned for and what is part of the state grant, as well as the city's contribution to this project. Any further questions or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Committee reports starting.
Excuse me, can we just get a report from Roger? Does he was able to get anything from the school department about their end of this?
Certainly, I'll share with you what I know.
Thank you.
A number of things have been happening with the building committee. Toward the project completion, they've completed a phase 1 analysis of the site, which is one of the requirements that the state has for the parcel. They've also completed survey work for the wetlands areas that would be potentially incorporated into the project. There is a programming element that goes on through the Board of Education, which basically determines what areas would be used for which specific purposes. They've made significant progress in that. I actually had a conversation earlier today with the architect from QA&M, and they're at the point of doing blocking diagrams and designing preliminary concepts. So it's still preliminary concepts, but at least they have specific square footage attributable to certain functions that are going to occur within the structure. So now that they're still finishing that out, the closer that they get to there, they will be able to start working with the construction manager to start coming up with specific concepts and then costs attributable to those designs. The next thing that will be happening for the building committee would be the selection of a commissioning agent, which would be a significant component for when we get to the tail end of the project in terms of making sure that the building is correctly constructed and that we have the systems installed according to the manufacturer requirements.
Do we need any further information on a regular basis from the Board of Education so we know that they're working together with the other group? In other words, we don't want them in different silos. We want them to be able to work together. Should we expect a report from the Board of Education monthly or not?
So I think that's why the mayor has been incorporating onto the agenda an update for the Memorial Boulevard Building Committee so that then you would get information on the progress of the project. It just so happens tonight that the liaison for the building committee is unavailable to attend tonight. But typically I think that's what the mayor has been trying to do, is to make sure that you do get consistent information.
Okay. Can we just be sure that we get the report from the Board of Education and where they stand on this with this report as well? Yes.
The building committee, the programming committee, or both? Because we've been doing both on the agenda. The programming committee is close to wrapping up their work in terms of their deliverable to the architect, which is working with the building committee.
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, I think in our discussion the last meeting we had, that was part of the problem. We want to make sure that we're all on the same page, and we just I like to be informed of that. So
Understood.
if we could do that each month.
We'll make sure that the building committee gets good, solid information to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The building committee's been meeting every 2 weeks with maybe a little hiccup during the holiday season, and I think they've picked up a lot of speed. One of the challenges, actually, when you do a historic restoration project as well as new construction at the same time, is the fact that some of the things that are not known. And so the last set of plans that they have are, I think, 1950s era from a renovation standpoint. And it's interesting because you can tell the historic interest of the architects, because Quisenberry would very much like to have something that was more antediluvian of nature, and maybe even from 1921. Those are the maps that they're really interested in looking at, and they can't find them anywhere. So we should probably start asking some of the older teachers, because that's how old those maps would probably be. They're probably squirreled away in someone's basement or attic. But I think
if you can find any older teachers from 1921, that would be pretty good, I would think.
we had some at St. Joseph's, that's for sure. They're probably still alive. Okay. So, moving on. Any other questions for the Memorial Boulevard project? Okay. Committee reports, starting on my far left.
I don't have any committee reports, but I did want to make a referral to the police commission if now is appropriate.
Sure.
So last night at the parking authority, we had around 20 plus people that came with parking tickets in light of the parking ban. Many of them claimed they weren't aware of it, they were new to the city. So I just want to refer something, if we can take a look if it's appropriate to do any type of a warning system. Obviously, we have a lack of parking challenges in certain sections of the city. So I just wanted to see if that was appropriate to take a look at.
Certainly, we can refer a recommendation via the parking authority and the city council to the traffic commission for them to review the procedures in place for the winter parking ban, with the potential of implementing a weekend of warnings so that people know that it's coming, maybe some advanced publicity we could do as well. And there's also an ancillary issue that the chief and I have been discussing, who was here a minute ago, concerning private roads. We've actually been ticketing people on private roads, which we have to do as well. I don't know. Did we vote on the contract? Therese, did we vote on the contract? Okay.
Just trying to get through things.
I can't breathe tonight. I can't think. Okay.
Slowing us down.
First, can we just do the police referral before we lose track even again? So many exciting things tonight. Okay. Are you prepared to make that in the form of a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Is there a second for the referral to the police commission?
Second.
Okay. Chief, you're aware, because we do have a meeting next Tuesday, we can maybe fast-track that so we can start talking about it. All in favor of the
Excuse me,
referral?
before- Can we just discuss that?
This is
for a
why I'm
second?
distracted.
We are allowed to participate, right? I just wanted to add the holiday period, because many times there are
With
people
guests.
that visit the city, and obviously, they might be involved with their relatives or whatever, and they don't know about it. By the time they get out to the day, well, don't even think about their car.
Especially when we have weather that's
Exactly.
unseasonable as
Exactly.
opposed
So, I
to-
mean, I think that whole thing should be
Okay,
looked at.
so good point on the weather aspect as well. So, okay, so right now we're voting on
Sending this
the sending this
police.
to the police commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now we are going to revisit the big issue of the night, which we didn't vote on, agenda item 11. Do we need to restate the motion, Therese, or can we just call for the vote?
No, I've got the motion, it was done by Councilwoman Portier, so we're all set there.
Okay. All in favor of the
Award
motion
of the
that was
contract.
presented for awarding the contract for D'Amato and Downs, a joint venture for construction management services? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, and thank you from the legal office. Okay.
They're keeping us on our
Yes,
toes
they are.
tonight.
Dale was panicking.
Nothing for them.
Nothing from Councilman Mills. Committee reports?
Nothing from me, Your Honor.
I do have one item, Your Honor. We received a request from Patricia Tomczak, Executive Director at the Department of Aging, to establish a senior volunteer tax relief pilot program, and it should be offered to senior citizens who choose to donate their time, their talent, and experience and services to qualified nonprofit entities. Just to give you a few facts on what this would entail, it encompasses people that have $45,000 single or $50,000 in income, not including Social Security, and their available is a annual tax credit of $300 per household for a minimum of 50 hours of volunteer service for the nonprofit entities. According to this request, the tax credit would be taken on the tax bill July 1st following the fiscal year in which the work was performed. And anybody looking for information on the guidelines should see the Executive Director, Patricia Tomczak, over at Senior Center. And one last thing is, as this is a pilot program, they're looking to have this evaluated after 1 year in place from the point of its approval. So if
So the pilot aspect of this is because we raised the thresholds, because this is something that is new to that program. This has to be brought to the council every year for renewal, so it can go into effect for February. And those of you may recall, last year, we voted to increase the levels a little bit because we were missing out on some people who could really have benefited from it, but just fell short of what those income thresholds are. So this is a renewal of that program, and I believe that our assessor, who is here tonight, you had mentioned to me a while back that we are close to coming up to the $24,000 budget line item for this, more so than in previous years when there were less people eligible, that income shift has helped more people apply. Okay, but we're not close to exceeding the 24,000 at this point. Sure. Okay, so we're still in a comfortable place with the program as it's been run. The good news is that more people are participating because of how we shifted those income guidelines.
So we're not looking for an additional shift
Nope,
this year?
nope, this is just to reiterate that that's the new part of that program.
So, be it resolved that in order to promote the goals of scientific, educational, literary, historical, governmental, charitable, and nonprofit entities located in the city of Bristol, by drawing upon the skills, knowledge, and experience of its senior citizens, the City Council of the City of Bristol hereby establishes a senior volunteer tax relief pilot program for senior citizens who choose to donate their time, talent, and experience by volunteering to provide services to qualified nonprofit entities.
And that's a resolution?
Yes.
Second.
Any discussion on the resolution as presented? Okay, hearing none, a roll call vote starting on my far right.
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Thank you. Councilman Kelly?
Yes, I have two, Your Honor. First being regarding the Diversity Council. Last week at Bristol Eastern, a community conversation about equity, inclusiveness, and excellence was facilitated by the Board of Education. I see some people here in the audience that attended as well up on the dais. It was attended by over 100 citizens. The same meeting held in Waterbury drew around 40 people, and that's significant in that Waterbury has a population in excess of 50,000 people of Bristol's population. So the volume and diversity of people at our meeting was indicative of the community's willingness to start the process of respecting and understanding all people. And there should really be an emphasis on how we are the same while acknowledging and learning from our differences. And it's important that we set the standard here in Bristol for tolerance and inclusion. And coincidentally, last night, the first meeting of the Bristol Diversity Council was held. And I think this is really going to continue the conversation because it started at Bristol Eastern. I think we'll do a better job. The presenter was pretty good. We'll do better. And it's a fluid situation now. We're trying to set goals and processes in place. And it is a diversity council, so we're going to be asking for more volunteers to make the council more diverse. Specifically, we'd like people from the Asian, Hispanic community, as well as young people to join. And I think we can circle the wagons and do a great job if that happens. So if anyone has any interest, please contact either the mayor or myself, and our contact information is on the city website. And school readiness. I'm not sure if anyone saw it, but Mike Schroeder, who is the editor and publisher of the Bristol Press, wrote an editorial entitled "A Year of Hope to Come," which was a pretty good article, editorial rather, very positive. And two major points. He touched on other things, but I'm going to stick to education. Two major points he made regarding education was investing in our future, which translates to more resources for educating our children at every age. And secondly, Mr. Schroeder stated that it's time to put long-term value ahead of short-term penny pinching to build something that has lasting value for generations to come. And that's interesting that he speaks of hope, because hope is a common theme at the School Readiness Council. And the major hope is proper funding, so all children can thrive and succeed in Bristol. And economists draw a parallel between strong school readiness programs and economic development. And there is a economist from the University of Chicago who won a Memorial Nobel Prize. His name's Dr. James Heckman, and he actually quantifies it. He says for every school readiness dollar spent, the return is 13% per child per year. So for anyone aware of return on investments, that's a pretty good return on investment. And coincidentally, when I was putting this together today, I found an email from Mary Alice Petroselli-Timmick, who is a grant writer for the School Readiness Program. And the email announced that Connecticut just won an $8.5 million federal grant to be used for school readiness. So after I read that, I thought hope is alive in Bristol, because she's a very good grant writer, and I'm sure we're going to get our share of that money. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other committee reports? Okay. Any unfinished business? Okay. Any new business? I have one item, and it's going to be a two-part issue. Under new business, I'd like to do the resolution for forming this year's Charter Revision Commission. And then under appointments, we can talk about who's going to be serving. Anybody like to read the resolution that's required?
Be it hereby resolved that pursuant to the authority contained in Section 7-187 through 7-190 of the Connecticut General Statutes, the City Council and the City of Bristol hereby creates a Charter Revision Commission to consist of 7 electors to be nominated by the mayor and confirmed by the City Council, provided that no more than 1/3 of whom may hold any other public office in the city, and not more than a bare majority of whom shall be members of any one particular political party. Said commissions is hereby directed to make its draft report to the appointing authority on or before June 28th, 2019.
Second.
Discussion on the resolution forming a Charter Revision Commission for this year.
Just through the chair, I know we had talked, I can't remember if it was last month or the one before, about the distinction with a committee versus a commission. We just want to move in the direction of the commission. Is that I just remember there was a timeline piece to it, and I didn't know.
Dale was talking about that, but I don't know. I think we're just going to stick with the traditional Charter Revision Commission that people are used to. And this is an opportunity for members of the public to weigh in if there's parts of our governing document that you think are unwieldy or could be more transparent, and as well as department heads. Just a reminder, it's always good to know your charter sections and see how they apply to how your department operates. We're going to be obviously coming through with that list, and we'll have that list, starting list, in the February meeting. And from there, obviously, the commission can take its own look as well once they're seated. So the resolution comes first, we'll appoint, and then we have the directive that will come following that. So if there's anything that, any of your committees that you're assigned to from a liaison standpoint, it would be a great thing to remind them as well in the coming weeks that we would need to have a short list in order to do that referral. So, no other comments? We'll do a roll call vote on the resolution, starting on my far left.
Yes.
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 And the chair votes yes. Thank you. Resignations.
There are 2 resignations. The first is from Gerald Doobie from the Inland Wetlands Commission, and the second is from Richard Minestrone, also from the Inland Wetlands Commission.
Is there a motion to accept the resignations and send a letter of thanks?
So moved.
Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. There's a few appointments for tonight. The first one is to appoint Kevin Rivenberg to replace Patricia White on the Burge Pond Hoppers Committee.
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. For the City Energy Commission, to appoint Dennis Sirianni for a term of 3 years to January of 2022.
So moved.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. For the Board of Fire Commissioners, to reappoint Sean Moore for a 3-year term to January of 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second appointment for the Board of Fire Commissioners, to reappoint Dana Jandro for a 3-year term to January of 2022.
So, second.
Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. To reappoint David Butkus for a 2-year term to January 2021 to the Firefighters Benefit Fund.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. For the Freedom of Information Advisory Board, to reappoint Edward Dudko, 2-year term to January of 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. For the Bristol Historic District Commission, to nominate Mary Kay Greger to replace Colleen Nicastro, alternate, a Section 2-9 resignation, an unexpired term to January of 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And to reappoint Miles Jennings for a 5-year term to January of 2024 to the Bristol Historic District Commission.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. For our Inland Wetlands Commission, these are mayor's appointments and do not require a confirming vote. To appoint David Rooks to replace Gerald Doobie, resigned, an unexpired term to May of 2019. Next, to appoint Tammy Kelly to replace Rich Ministro, resigned, an unexpired term to May 2019. And to appoint David Scarrett as an alternate, replacing David Rooks, an unexpired term to January of 2021. For Board of Library Directors, I'm making 4 reappointments. They are all for a 3-year term to January of 2022. The members are Pina Salvatore, Donna Papazian, Bonnie Lodovico, and Elizabeth Kanachowski. Is there a motion for an approval for all 4 names as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. For the School Readiness Council, to appoint Azra Redzik to replace Erica Coleman, resigned, unexpired term to August of 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. To appoint Donna Kozer to replace Laura Watson, resigned, an unexpired term to August of 2020 for the School Readiness Council.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. To appoint Tim Adamitis to replace Michael Gregory Arasenko, Section 2-9 attendance resignation, 3-year term to July of 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. For Charter Revision, we're very fortunate to have 6 of the 9 members returning. We are going to have a commission of 7 for 2019. The returning commissioners from the 2018 commission include the names of John Fitzgerald, Harold Kilby, Jonathan Mace, John Krampitz, and Michelle Rolfe, and Lori Ann Scotty. And they're going to be joined by Isaiah Miller, who is a recent graduate of Bristol Central High School, currently attending Wesleyan University as an economics major. He was a stellar athletic standout from Bristol Central playing football, a member of the minority community, and also last year was named the Exchange Club Youth of the Year. So that will be a great addition to the Charter Revision Commission, and we look forward to having a new and a young perspective joining our veterans on the Charter Revision Commission. We anticipate there's probably going to be 4 or 5 big issues coming forward, as well as some usual housekeeping items that they'll need to take care of as well. Is there a motion to approve the names as presented for Charter Revision?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We can move on with our agenda. We've already taken care of agenda items 11 and 13, so we have 2 left before our executive session.
Item 12 is resolution regarding approval to submit application for 2019 Cities of Service Engaged Cities Award. And there is a resolution to read, Your Honor.
I do have the resolution. Be it hereby resolved by the City Council of the City of Bristol, Connecticut, that the filing of an application to the 2019 Cities of Service Engaged Cities Award is hereby approved, and that the Mayor, Ellen A. Zappo-Sassu, or Acting Mayor, is hereby authorized to execute such application and any and all other documents relating to this application/award, including but not limited to any final award documents. Be it further resolved that this matter be referred to the Board of Finance for informational purposes.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, a roll call vote starting on my far right.
Yes.
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 Chair votes yes. The motion is approved. Item 14.
Item 14 is to approve the street acceptance of Field Rock Road, 50 feet in width, running from the east line of Village Street in an easterly direction approximately 780 feet, including the cul-de-sac, and for the applicant to post and maintain a maintenance bond for a period of 1 year. And there is a motion to read.
I have the motion.
Okay, Councilman Hahn.
The Board of Public Works recommends the City Council approve the street acceptance of Field Rock Road, described as 50 feet in width and running from the eastern line of Village Street in an easterly direction approximately 780 feet to and including the cul-de-sac, with connecting curves at intersections as a public highway and to be so named.
And there should be a motion, though, that's attached. It might be on the second page.
All right.
It's to approve the street
Yes.
acceptance.
To approve the street acceptance of Field Rock Road, 50 feet in width and running from the east line of Village Street in an easterly direction, approximately 780 feet, including the cul-de-sac with connecting curves and intersections as a public highway and to be so named, and for the applicant to post and maintain a maintenance bond of 10% of the roadway construction cost of $25,000 for a period of 1 year from date of street acceptance, to cancel the public hearing and assessment hearing scheduled for January 17th, 2019, which is unnecessary for street acceptances.
Second.
There's been a second on the motion. Is there a discussion? Was this a resolution?
No.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have 1, 2, 3, 5 executive sessions listed on the agenda. Will we be going in for all 5?
6, I think.
6.
6.
We have the addenda item. You
and the
have
addenda.
paper
Right.
version.
I'd like to take them in the following order. 15, item 15 will be Jeffrey Stieg and myself. Item 16 will be just me. 17 will be Richard Lacey and myself. 18 we're going to hold till the end. 19 will be just myself. And the addenda, executive session, will be Richard Lacey and myself. For back to number 18, it'll be all corporation councils. That would be Richard Lacey, Tom Conlon, Jeffrey Stieg, and myself. I'd also like to invite in Tom Denoto, Roger Rousseau, and Diane, are you still here? Diane Waldron, and of course, Michael Goman and Denise Robideau from Goman in York.
Okay.
Okay.
Before we do that, we do have any other business item, and I thought for just efficiency's sake, before we go in, we can handle one more item. Despite the fact that we adopted the relaxation of the school building committee regulations for tonight, it does not apply to the South Side and the Stafford School building committees, unfortunately. So I need council volunteers, one for South Side and one for Stafford, to sit on those building committees. And you will then serve with the Board of Finance and the Board of Education member to fill out the rest of that committee. Are there any volunteers?
I'm willing to serve on Stafford.
Okay, so I'll nominate Mary Fortier to serve as the City Council representative for the Stafford School Building Committee. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So because Councilman Perleski is absent and it is in his district, I would like to entertain a motion to name him to the South Side Building Project.
Second.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now we can, we're going to have a motion to go into executive session as noted in the order that Corporation Counsel Cliff noted them and with the people associated with those items. So is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Several of these are brief, one of them is not, so in case any of you are not here when we come back out, thank you for joining us for this council meeting. We'll see you next month. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let the record show that no votes were taken in executive session. The first item is agenda item number 15, the executive session regarding 63 Gridley Street. Is there a motion to come forward?
I have a motion, Your Honor. I hereby move that the City of Bristol accept the offer from Greater Bristol Realty Group, GRBC, in the amount of $10,000 for city-owned property known as 63 Gridley Street on map 29 of the Bristol Assessor's Office. The purpose of this motion is to substitute the grantee from the Neighborhood Housing Services of New Britain, previously authorized by City Council on September 11th, 2018, to Greater Bristol Realty Corp., GRBC. I further move that this matter be referred to Corporation Counsel to prepare and/or review any necessary documents. I further move that the mayor or acting mayor be authorized to execute any necessary documents to effectuate the same.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. In the matter of agenda item 16, the employment agreement between the City of Bristol and Fire Chief Jay Kolakowski, I would like to ask that someone from the City Council make the motion as that I'm about to present, that we approve the proposed draft employment agreement between the City of Bristol and Jay Kolakowski, the Fire Chief, that has been presented for a 4-year term, and that I, Mayor Ellen Zappo-Sassu, or the acting mayor, be authorized to sign all necessary documents to effect the terms of this agreement. And I would like to ask that someone from the City Council further move that this matter be referred to both the Board of Finance for any necessary action, as well as to the Fire Board for informational purposes.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, Chief. Agenda item 17, our friends at US Bank. Is there a motion to come forward?
I have one, Your Honor. I hereby move to the City of Bristol in consideration of a payment of $20,000 by U.S. Bank enters into a full and final settlement of all claims in the matter of City of Bristol versus U.S. Bank National Association as trustee for the registered holders of Aegis Asset-Backed Securities Trust 2005-2, mortgage-backed notes, docket number HHB CV-17-6035850-S.
Can you repeat that?
Second.
Wait a minute, I haven't
Oh,
finished.
sorry.
I further
sorry.
move that the Corporation Counsel or the Assistant Corporation Counsel be authorized to prepare and execute any necessary documents.
Second.
Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have a motion for anything concerning 18? Roger? I don't have my copy, apparently.
Would you like me to provide it to you?
I would love that. Thank you. Okay, so coming out of executive session and following our discussion, the City Council is going to consider a motion that would authorize me or the acting mayor to direct staff to pursue certain investigations and additional due diligence for 10 Main Street with 10 Main and South LLC and refer to the Office of Corporation Counsel. The items that we're interested in is a completion of a structural engineering report commissioned by the city, but allowed access by the seller, and contingent upon positive recommendation from said engineer. Also, an independent evaluation of environmental conditions for both the structure and the site within which the property is contained, commissioned by the city, but allowed access by the seller, and contingent upon positive recommendations from that consultant. The city will also agree to restore any destructive measures made by the city or its agents during this analysis and due diligence. Contingent upon the positive determination of the ability to transfer either the land or lease upon which the building exists would be another item for us to discuss. And after that, at such time, that all of the above are completed satisfactorily to both parties, inclusive of a schematic layout, building outfitting, example of mechanical systems, security and technology systems, and finishes, as well as site amenities, and as amenable to both parties, the council will then consider the next step necessary with regard to any potential acquisition. Further, this matter should be referred to the Board of Finance and the Board of Public Works for informational purposes and any funding requests for reasonable due diligence. So if somebody could make that in the form of a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the motion as presented. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion to come forward concerning item 19?
I have that, Your Honor. I move that the City Council approve the proposed draft memorandum of agreement between the City of Bristol and Bristol Professionals and Supervisors Association, AFT Local Number 6012, Connecticut AFL-CIO, that has been presented to the council pertaining to the present position of legal secretary, and that the mayor, Ellen A. Zappo-Sasso, or acting mayor, be authorized to sign all necessary documents to effect the purposes of this agreement. I further move that this matter be referred to the Board of Finance for any necessary action.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
A no.
One no vote for the record from Councilman Mills. The motion passes. From the addenda, are there any motions to come forward?
I do have a motion, Your Honor. I hereby move that the mayor or acting mayor be authorized to enter into a separation agreement and release with Deborah Shapiro, substantially incorporating the terms and conditions set forth in the attached Schedule A.
Second.
Discussion of the motion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck, Debbie, in your retirement. We wish you the best.
Thank you for your service.
Are there any other business proper to come before the meeting? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.